Alright, and we're back. This is me going through... Fuck, I don't even have a microphone. That was a complete fail.
Test, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Alright, as goofy as that looks, that will work. Now this is me going through my complete workflow post-game. So this is all the editing, this is all the distributing, this is everything else that isn't at the actual game. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Right here, as you can see, I've taken 410 photos today, which it makes my life a lot easier in post, but typically I will take just a little bit more than this, around 600 to 700 photos, but we're going to see exactly how these ones come to life step by step. Now, so let's import them all in. Now you've been with me along the sidelines of games, you've been with me in the in goal of games, photographing and videoing, but what you haven't done is really been with me in the editing stage. So this is what we're doing today. This is my complete post-game workflow photographing my bread and butter rugby union. Let's dive right in. So once all of our photos have been imported into Lightroom, I always go through, controversial I know, most people will actually go and sieve through, will cull through good ones and bad ones. I mostly do it a bit backwards, and that's simply because most of the time I'm dealing with quick turnaround times. So today's a little bit different. I can do it in my own time, but we're going to mimic as if we actually were doing quick turnaround times, and that would primarily be focused around this process right here. And that process is just going through a really good model photo. So I would find a model photo. Perfect. So once I've found my worthy image, we go straight into the editing. So I'll always edit the first image, and then that way I'll just copy and paste the rest of the settings, because I know I want the seamless look. I want the same look throughout the whole gallery of pics. All right, first of all, let's put a crop on this, because that plane is going to slightly piss me off. So once our photo is all leveled out, I guess you should say, it's time for the editing. Now, as you can see, this one is slightly underexposed. So what we're going to do is we're just going to bump up the exposure a tiny bit. That way we're grabbing some of those highlights and some of those details in there. Now, there is enough contrast in this already. However, I am just going to bump a tiny bit into it. So it virtually makes no difference, but hey, that's just what we do, hey? That's just exactly what we do. Highlights I am going to bring down now. I typically like to have like a darker image, so that's why my highlights will come down. Maybe that's a bit, yeah, let's go around there. Perfect. Next up is the shadows. So with these shadows, as I said, it's quite already just underexposed. Like you can see in his jersey details here, that's basically black, almost like a dark crimson red. So you can see here in the sunlight where the actual jersey color is meant to be. We're just going to simply bring some of those details back in, just like that, Perfect. Next is the texture and clarity. So coming into the texture and clarity, obviously we've all had our beef with the texture and clarity sliders. So in an environment where I have somewhat matured as a photographer, this is what I'll do. I'll just bump the texture up a tiny bit and then just even it back out with the clarity. Already, boom, softer image, a 10 times softer image, and it just looks, we are just gonna bump up the vibrance a tiny bit, and then same with the saturation, bang and bang. Actually, let's bring that saturation back. Tiny minute details. I know to the average plain eye, these details don't really matter, or you won't be able to notice them, but me, I notice them. Alright, so base image done. We're just going to use this as a base. This is simply just a base for all of our other edits. We are going to copy, and now we go back to the start, and this is the culling process for me. I will put the base edit on all the photos that I think are worthy, and then we'll go through from there. Now, keep in mind as well, when I am doing this second part of the process, I am making fine details. So if it's slightly overexposed, I would just go back through and change the exposure. So minute details, if the temperature is slightly off, I typically like to have mine a bit warmer than cooler. That's just a personal preference of mine. And so I'm just making minute details. I now know what the base edit is going to look like. I will just go back through as I'm doing the second process. I will just go back through and make minor changes. Now let's just talk about something that I will also do throughout this second process. As I'm doing this speed process, I will just put the base edit on, as I've mentioned before, but I'll also do my cropping. So I decide whether it's a vertical image or a landscape image, or even I'll put it in a 16:9 landscape format too. It's just another thing, like this one here, if we're looking at the original image, as you can see, it's quite a wide image and he's center frame. So with these 16:9 ones, I kind of like to use the negative space. It just conveys more of like a better message in my opinion. Like it just looks cool. That's my focus with that one. Whereas if I was to do one like this, I'm going to lean more into, hold up here, wait a second, controversial, I know, something like this. Actually, probably not the best example because he already is skewed, unless we do it like that. Yeah, perfect. Yes, I did ponder my decision whether or not I put it into the 16:9 landscape, or I just make it straight, or I lean into the fact that Carter is leaning and play along with it. And so I've gone with this option here. I'll tell you what as well, one thing I am forever grateful is the sensor on my camera. Like, look at this. This is the original image, all scoped out, and then this is what we get at the end. Boom. Like that is probably around 70 meters away, and the sensor on my camera, I think it's 67 megapixel camera on my sensor.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
67 megapixel sensor on my camera. Now this one here, of Hunter Paisami, arguably we could do the same thing we did with the Carter Gordon one before, where obviously he's on the angle, so we could slide a little bit, but to be honest, I like this one more as just a straight portrait, just like that. Now this is in the second half where we just didn't get the ball. We didn't have the ball for 15 minutes. It was just absurd. So Hunter Paisami once again, basically a knight in shining armor. Let's put that in 16:9, see what it looks like. Yeah. 4 Reds versus 1 Waratah. What are they gonna do? Beat us, obviously. Lockie Anderson. Now, Slippery Dope. Bang, bang, bang. Boom. Skewer. And just like that, we're done. So here are our good selects. From 410 photos, we got, drumroll please, 34 photos. That's good. That's actually good. I'm happy with that. So let's look at these ones really quick. Obviously we have our stock standard 16:9 images. Now this one here is quite questionable. If we look at the original image, it is a massive goalpost in the way. Obviously massive goalpost, we could argue we go that way, but actually I like that better. Let's keep it like that. We have our Carter Gordon one, so our obscured ones, and then our 16:9 one. So this actually led to a try, so I've got a sequence of photos here. One here, I put the obscurity on it. Then we have a slightly zoomed in one. Now, I don't know what's going on here. It's probably the rolling shutter in my camera as to why the crowd is so weird looking and morphed. So I saw the opportunity. He was actually really close to me in that photo. So I saw the opportunity where my camera will be able to get it high quality anyways. So that's just where I cropped it in that little bit more. And you'll see it in this one here too. He was literally scooting down the sideline in that one, scooting down the in goal, And then this one too. So this one was actually taken in portrait, but I fixed it up with a little cropping and then zoomed it in a tad bit more. And then just as another storytelling one, Kalani Thomas there with a Ballymore, with a full volley, with a full out Ballymore crowd in the background there. And then this one. Now, to be honest, some of these line out ones I'm probably going to get printed, just like this James O'Connor one just here. Honestly, it's probably going to be this one that I'm going to print. Just maybe I'll use some AI in the background there to fill out the crowd, but we don't want to fake anything here, so probably just going to print out as is. Louis Werchon, Hunter, I mean, alright, Harry McLaughlin Phillips, and then constantly just more crops that I thought were necessary, and then that brings it to the end. So what I will also do is I will go ahead and put a denoise on all of these images just to make them that tiny bit more sharper, and then basically done there. Deliverable, done. I'll post them on Instagram myself. There's probably enough for 2 posts here, so no doubt will keep me busy for sure. So yeah, that there is just what the process is like straight after the game. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to it. Once you edit the first photo, you can kind of use the same look over and over again. And that's just where the copy and paste comes in. Yes, I could go back and just mask every single one of these photos. I could spend ages and ages meticulously editing like the eyeballs, making the eyeballs more white, making, you know, an inverted mask, making a vignette. I could spend all the time doing that, but in the high paced environment, you just don't have the time to do it. So that's kind of just my philosophy, really. Like, all these photographers will spend 1 to 2 days post game editing the photos still, and then delivering on the 3rd day. Like, I just don't see the point in that. The time has gone, the time has passed to edit those. And by all means, there are still some really good photographers out there that do all the masking or the vignetting within a day, and props to those guys. But honestly, like, I could do it, I genuinely could do it, but it's just not really necessary, especially when the photos already turn out. Like, when photos have accurate colors, released within a timely manner, so that the sense of the game hasn't gone, no one's forgotten about the game or anything. There's really, I don't know, a bit of beef, call it what you want. That's just how I've always operated. Like, and there are times where I do need to spend a bit more time meticulously masking out the subject and making the background a bit more blur, making the background a bit more darker, making the subject pop a bit more. But honestly, it comes down to how accurate you are on actual game day. Like, yeah, if your photo is poorly taken on actual game day, you're going to spend longer editing. It's just as simple as that. Whereas if it's accurate straight from the camera, minimal edits are required, and that's just what I strive for, is to get these out as quickly as possible. That's why the editing process is just so simple, straight cut, and forward. All right, rant over, and so is this video. So, and so is this video. Without further ado, if you have any questions or anything, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. Happy to make a video around it. But yeah, that's about it really. Cue the fade out.